Hey there, today we're going to be taking a look at Valorant running on the TRIGKEY with the Ryzen 5 5500U versus the AceMagician with the Ryzen 5 5600U. Both will be set to 25 watts. Now, one thing to note is that you can compare the AceMagician with pretty much the B-Link SCR5 with the Ryzen 5 5500U as well, since the TRIGKEY and the SRE5 are practically identical. They pretty much end up performing at the same level. But let's take a look at the actual gameplay. Now here you see the Ryzen 5 5500U running next to the Ryzen 5 5600U. A few things that I do need to point out. You will see that the temperature difference is pretty substantial. This really just has to do with the fact that the AceMagician really seems to struggle with 25 watts. Even already at the stock 15 watts, it's not exactly spectacular, but clearly pumping another extra 10 watts on top of that really starts to push things. We weren't to the point of thermal throttling, but we were very much at the edge of that. In general, though, what I ended up doing was I ended up playing 3 games on each system. Since Valorant doesn't really let you pick the specific map that you play on, it's kind of just random. I pretty much just did 3 games on each system, and these averages and 1% lows that you see on the screen is the average of all 3 runs. And in general, it does seem like the 5600U was giving us slightly better 1% lows, but also slightly better FPS averages. The 1% lows is really the big deal here, though, because that really means that in general, while we are seeing an improvement, it's not an earth-shattering one at all. While you might see going from 127 FPS up to 143 to be a decent jump, the fact that there's very little uplift in our 1% lows lets you know that in general it's actually not going to be that great of an experience, at least in terms of an improvement. The game is perfectly playable on both systems. I don't think that either one will really cause you to complain too much. We are already running the game on its lowest settings. There is headroom for you to turn things up, like textures and stuff like that. That doesn't really affect performance at all, and can go a good way to make the game look slightly better. But realistically, for the type of game that this is, you don't really need to turn anything up. An interesting thing, though, is that on the 5600U system, I ended up running into an issue where I just could not shoot my gun. In 2 of the games that I ended up playing, I just could not end up shooting with my left click. Everything worked perfectly fine outside of the game, other games, but for some reason Valorant just really does not seem to like my mouse or something, because I could only alt fire at people. So it definitely made playing those games absolutely brutal, but in general the 5600U does perform better. But anyways, I will catch you guys in the next one.